So I'm doing a general reading today. So if this resonates with you, then I am so happy that you're able to receive this message. I apologize, first of all, for not posting a video last week. I considered doing a reading on a new schedule, and then I didn't decide on which day I would do that on, so I didn't even record a video. I had it planned to do a love reading, so if that's something that you are looking forward to, then hopefully that will come out soon. So I already picked some cards. I actually have another one right here in the corner. It's man holding a coin. Okay, so it's pretty self-explanatory for me. It's financial constraints, the man holding the coin, completion, and effortless both coming through here. So I do sense optimism when it comes to finances. I'm seeing this as literal, okay? So this financial constraints I see is literal. There's a concern surrounding finances or resources. The resources obviously connected directly to what you're able to financially create or collect, right? But with the man holding the coin, I'm really drawn to the sun in the background of that particular card, if you want to look at that a little bit closer. And I see that as optimism, but it's full of opportunity and it's based in reality. It's not a false hope. It's not false optimism. There's true potential in being able to multiply or create more financial gain than what you've had prior to this, whatever's surrounding this particular concern here. I feel it has some blockage connected to communication. So this is interpreted to me in a way where your guides are pointing out this necessity to be out more, to talk more. Okay, so how this connects to you in your personal life and how it would relate, whether this is going out and just literally putting yourself out there for people, if this is going to interviews, something connected to your ability to communicate with others, and also keeping to promises that you've had for yourself. These are the key components to you being able to achieve what it is that you're it does feel a sense of fear, but it's interesting because there's pride connected to the fear. So it's interesting because then that adds an element of complexity to it, where this, whatever this financial constraint represents for you, is also tied into the way that you perceive yourself. So you may identify yourself as someone who has this, or who always wanted this, or who needs this, okay? It's somehow connected the way that you see your identity as, right? And so with effortless, what I'm seeing here is the ability to achieve this, the ability to possess this, to attain this, is actually effortless once you understand the correct method that is supposed to work for you in this regard. And this is supposed to be granted. Granted is not the right word. It's kind of like that, you know, it's, there's probably a good saying for this, but in essence, it's like, if I were to know you personally and I knew your struggle personally and you came and talked to me, I could very easily tell you the solution. And it's harder for you to be able to see it in the past because you're living your own life, right? And you have all these other kind of things going on where you're not really able to see yourself as clearly as someone who is not living your life, right? But it's changing. It's changing. The reason why it's changing is because it feels like you either wrote it down, like you wrote down your goals, you wrote down what you need to do, or I'm just seeing it connected somehow to the past. So, let's even say if this has to do with finances, then you've already set up accounts, that are somehow, it's somehow providing the structure that you need. It's providing the foundation that you need. Because it feels like in the past, when you had set this up, you wrote this down, whatever this is, when you had decided what it is, you've kind of started to form your identity, when it comes to relating to this. You were proactive. You had great sense of you were able to project yourself into the future to now to see what it is that you need to do or how you're supposed to set things up. Okay? And somehow between then and now, it seems that things kind of got a little bit let's see, hold on. Instinct, wolf, instinct. I don't want that one. Strength. So what I'm getting from this is what somehow between there, your heart was in the right place, and it seems like it's not for nothing. Whatever you've done in between has, I'm seeing this as courageous, like the lion, the cowardly lion who wants courage from the Wizard of Oz. So I'm seeing this as courageous, like you were courageous. So there's something from who you were in the past when you had started this vision, right? Like kind of mapping this vision out, to now you have built courage, you've built stamina, you've built strength. Okay, your guides are wanting to point this out. They're trying to show you how different you are from then and all of those strong positive aspects that are connected to this. With instinct, I mean, it's a cold visual as it is. And I am feeling a sense of cold, but it's a cold exterior. Because even with this card as well, I'm seeing a serpent and how they're cold-blooded. So I'm feeling the skin of a serpent, and it feels very cool, right? Snakes are usually very cool to the touch. And I'm getting that sense of like a cool exterior. So I'm kind of seeing this as maintaining your cool on the outside. But in the depths of you, I'm seeing very warm. I'm seeing very sunny. And I'm seeing this card, the appreciation. It almost seems like an overabundance of something good. And it kind of connects to the waterfall as well, where it's almost like when you have too much of something, it can get overwhelming. When you have too much of something, it can get kind of confusing and also difficult to manage. But once you're able to kind of clear it out, like let's use this example, if you're able to clear the briars out, you'll be able to see your garden again in the way that you had envisioned it, right? So I'm seeing it as this shared thing, right? And they're giving me an example of kind of like what I actually do with my garden, where I kind of, in my mind, I tell myself that I'm sharing my garden. So sometimes, well, not some, most always, I will leave my garden to kind of run amok in the summertime. And like towards the end of spring, when all the birds, all the snakes, all of these animals are, they're breeding, having whatever, right? And they're living there. It's more diverse, and then towards the end of the seasons, then I will clear it out for the most part. and then I will use the garden myself for things that I want to grow, right, to eat and everything. And so I'm seeing this as your guides. The reason they're bringing me to that example is because I see that in the center of your life that they're pointing out. So from the beginning until now, the center of it seems to be them trying to point out to you that the way that you can kind of perceive what you've experienced, or maybe you already know this, but it's just confirming for you that there's some sort of shared element. There's like an equal element, or there's, you know, like it's almost like I could look at my garden, like for the sake of vanity, I could tear all of that up, right? But then in my heart, it wouldn't feel right. Like I wouldn't feel like I'm being true to myself. So irregardless of maybe what had transpired, whether this is good, the way that you perceive it as good or negative, the way that it transpired was still true to your core, to your essence. And so just continue to see it in this way, and to kind of I'm hearing the word cultivate, and it's cultivating your vision. They want you to continue to cultivate your vision, right? So that vision's still there, right? If you look at the vision as your garden, that foundation's still there. In fact, it's been growing. The stunted that I'm seeing, right, is more so on the surface level of the what you can purposely see, but the root system and also just all of these other things I'm seeing that you're not able to perceive have been growing and have been providing, right? So I'm seeing this as it's being like what you've done in the in-between has provided so much more than maybe you could even, what's the word I'm looking for? Like quantify. So how do you get to the next step, right? How do we get to that completion? Well, I'm seeing the new moon. It says full moon. So I'm seeing it full moon to new moon. I'm seeing this is 30 days. But then when I was saying that, then I heard months. 30 months would be over 2 years, though. 30 months. Well, 30 months might be significant to you in some way. Maybe that's the in-between stage. Maybe something major is supposed to happen then for some of you. I'm not getting a clear answer on what exactly 30 months was supposed to highlight here. But I am seeing full moon to new moon, and then I'm seeing a backwards of a new moon. So it seems to be that this prior month to you watching this, because this is a timeless reading, so think back 30 days or however long since the last moon cycle, and I'm seeing what am I saying? I'm seeing something and then it's being taken and moved. Let's just pull and see if there's anything more that'll help me get a more clear picture on what I'm seeing here. You guys can explain this a little bit more. Guardian angels, childhood, innocence. This wanted to jump out. Archangel Uriel. Two archangels. Fifth and seventh chakra. Wow. Another archangel. Huh. You know, the only thing I'm really getting from this, maybe because it is a general reading, okay, and someone who didn't come out specifically right here, but I had been seeing from the beginning when I was talking about speaking, is Archangel Raphael. So we're getting 4 archangels coming through. And childhood feels very, very connected to this anyway. The innocence that is connected to this, and I feel for a lot of you, you would already know, like that would be signs enough coming through for you of like what this is related to when all these archangels and the childhood came out. And this is what I'm seeing as something being carried out from last moon cycle into this. I mean, even for some of you, this could have to do with pregnancy or a rainbow baby, you know, things like that. You know, I'm really not getting something really, really clear on this. I think this is something that if it doesn't resonate with you of like knowing what this is, it's something that you're just going to have to take part in for yourself and like meditate and think about what this could potentially be. You could have even been praying to the archangels. You could have been getting messages from the archangels specifically, right, in your day-to-day life. Maybe this is something that, I don't know, it's not clear to me, and it's not supposed to be clear to me if it's just going to continue to look the way it does in my vision. So just know too, they're very strong surrounding you, clearly, right? These archangels continuously coming out. So to get to that, okay, so, well, to get to the next stage of like kind of freeing yourself from these financial constraints, whatever this is relating to you, to see that the sunrise, right, that potential back there is seeing like connect what in the world? Oh, I put it in the wrong deck and it came flying out. Connect to your innocence, right? I mean, I think that's, if it's coming out again, I guess that's a great way to put it, is just connect to the sunny side of things, the sunny side of life, right? It's like, in order to free yourself of this, you have to see it less of something that, it's almost like I'm being drawn, like there's some company name that's written on here that's being highlighted to me. So it's almost like, don't look at this as something that is a chore. Look at this as something more expansive. So I'm saying you have to have a more expansive perspective on this. Another archangel, 6th chakra, Metatron, Archangel Metatron. I think the most important thing here is to connect. Well, you know, and it's all the chakras, so it's balance, right? Balancing yourself. And I'm seeing that the children in this deck, this card, to be balanced. They feel very balanced already, with grounded in spirituality, because she's pointing towards the sky. So I'm seeing this as the femininity pointed towards the sky, right? And her guiding the masculine who's rooted here, and he's also holding on to this tree. So it's the feminine guiding the masculine to that spiritual light, while the masculine is that growth and also the instinct, right? That's here on earth. So it's a balance of both of those, and then the equal perception of those. So it's important that you get back into that. But that's not a chore. Like, these kids, they're both working in this image. She's holding something, he's holding a bucket. And I see a storm back there, right? But this card in particular feels like that same feeling, like it's almost like a reaching feeling, right? Like when you're really young and you can reach into you're into your imagination of what is possible for you in your future, what's possible in your life. Like, it's almost like getting back to the core before the programming happened. It's this feeling of like you know, we're all programmed in some way through childhood. So but it feels like you've reprogrammed yourself, you know, prior to this. And so it's going all the way back again to that strong foundation of freedom and prior to programming. So even if you reprogrammed yourself, now get back to not being programmed yet at all and seeing things with a fresh perspective. And it's really important that you have a clear mind when you do this, right? With all of these archangels coming out, I'm seeing it not just in a balanced perspective, but it also has to come from a sincere place. It has to come from a righteous place, because if it doesn't, I don't see this going well. I mean, that's reality though, right? That's just how it is. It's not going to go well for anyone. But I am like seeing that being highlighted here. Ebb and flow and vulnerability. Beautiful. And then lastly, we have women holding a heart reversed and adjacent possibilities. So the woman holding a heart in reverse is definitely giving a conflicting message when you consider vulnerability, ebb and flow, right? And I do see, because I'm gonna note this since this has come up again, there was a slight feeling here prior that there is some other energy that feels a little bit nagging, almost like a gnat, like just a little tiny energy that is coming in and kind of being a bother. Now, how this is reflected in your reality, this is either going to be some sort of thought in your mind that's reflecting back to prior conditioning, prior programming, or this could also be an actual person that feels like maybe they have their heart in the right place, like maybe but it would be misguided guidance. What I'm essentially saying is to cut out that bugging energy. I'm trying to see if there could be anything else, you know, like small things that you may need to do in your life that could be distracting you. And that's not what I'm seeing as being pointed out here, although probably good advice anyway, but seems to be some sort of bothering energy. So just pay attention to that. Do what you can to eliminate that. Because I'm seeing, it's directing me biblically Corinthians believe. But it has something to do with like being mindful of those that you associate with, because I'm saying this is like an apple, right? For an example. So it's like a rotten apple, and it's being chipped away. So it's being mindful of those that you spend your time around, because it can poison you as well. So it's important that that's coming out, okay? And maybe this is more, because I am seeing it kind of peek over to the chakras and your guardian angels and the archangels and your guides saying, okay, well, you also have to pay attention to this too, that could be more sinister than it may be, you may be able to perceive, because it's slowly being chipped away. And this maybe this is also has to do with like, with this financial constraints of like, be mindful of these little, if you want to take it to a literal finance, it's like, what are these small little purchases, or what are these small little, anything. What is this? Something that's very small, and it's like a gnat, like a bug, like bugging you, nagging you, and chipping away at your innocence, your resources, all of this. It's very important that you identify this, because it seems like you might be overlooking it for some of you. Some others of you know what this is. But again, your guides are coming through saying you're underestimating the toxicity this may bring, because it's slowly going to affect the whole apple, right? It's slowly going to rot the whole apple. So you have to pay attention to this and say, this is not this. I cannot do this even just a little bit. I cannot have this around me just a little bit, right? So with the vulnerability, ebb and flow, adjacent possibilities coming through, I'm seeing this as exploring this, and it brings me even to this. It's like you also yourself have to be vulnerable and also go with the flow of your own mind to kind of process exactly what this is, because cutting this particular thing out seems to affect some level of vulnerability for you. It does make you feel exposed in some way, or it makes you feel alone in some way, or makes you feel distant. Like the reason why I said alone, distant is because I'm seeing it as, consider the vastness of an ocean, or even the vastness of a meadow, how far you can see. I'm getting that feeling as well. And it feels like it's like a difficult choice to make, because there's an emotional attachment to it, right? So it's like mentally it's difficult, but in reality, it's to do that, to kind of cut this out, would not necessarily be difficult. You just have to change your perspective on it, if that's something that you choose to follow, pursue. So I want to get one last message with regards to this. Deceit, reverse, goddess of the moon, anxiety, and another archangel card, fifth chakra, Archangel Gabriel. This is just repeating it again, to get past into that new, okay, let's go to the new moon, right, of when things are freed up. It's like in that waterfall, it's like very easy. This is very easy, but the difficult part is being honest with yourself, or like even being honest with others, it feels like, in some way. So if we want to take it we'll take it in one of the old examples that I was saying of, like, let's say you have to go and like go to interviews, right? It's like you need to step out and know exactly who you are, right? You can't keep telling yourself things that may not be true, right? Going back to old programming, maybe there was someone that told you that you weren't good at something or you weren't enough. So don't even let that occur in your mind. You need to know exactly who you are and be that, right? Maybe you're not trying as hard, maybe you're taking too much time in between going to interviews, right? Something like that. Or let's say this has to do with another individual, then you're not being completely honest with like how this may be affecting your psyche, right? You may not be completely honest with like, okay, maybe this person isn't having my back the way that I would really want them. Like there's some sort of denial here, but there's the awareness. So you're aware of it to some capacity, but you're denying it. I do feel tired when I'm doing this reading. I'm not exhausted, but I do feel kind of like out of it. So it does feel like this particular thing that has been the block here is draining. It is draining you. And so just be open about it with yourself and be honest about it with yourself, because this seems like this was not part of the plan, okay? When we go back to that original kind of foundation, this was not part of the foundation, which is okay. It was meant to happen anyway. You're obviously gaining some sort of wisdom and experience with regards to this, but it's time to clear out the briars, right? And it's like your opportunity to share the garden. It's your time to be in the garden. Whale, breach. I'm saying this also as a breach of contract. So that could be literal, like it's time to breach some sort of contract, change some sort of contract, but I'm also seeing this as a massive wave. Like, don't be afraid to make a massive, massive wave, right? And I'm personifying the whale in my mind, so it's like this, I'm seeing this whale as like being so massive and seeing the surface, all these people, tiny, 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 and being insecure about that, the difference. And it's like, in reality, if you were to do that, jump out of the water and splash, they would be amazed. You'd be all over the internet, right? You would be set in someone's mind forever as like just a perfect moment. And so just change your perception, because who you are and the waves that you can make as you breach, it's almost like this restraining commitment that you made, and it's like once you breach that and you jump out and you release, relax, expand, you're going to be so relieved, so like I'm seeing like emboldened, but passionate, like it's just so passionate. And I'm seeing that the communication that you have with your guides is going to strengthen and amplify. It's important that you do this, because the more that you block yourself and you're repressing yourself, the more difficult you're able to even perceive things bigger, right? Because you're restricting. So you're turning more animalistic in the sense of survival mode. So those messages, your guides and those, all of that the energy has to be bigger in order for you to be able to receive it. So again, going back to that childlike innocence and that balance, then you will be able to receive just as you were before in a more amplified but it's going to be in a more amplified fashion. Okay. Last thing, I will split, and I'm seeing this again, literal, forest, and Gaia, and I'm seeing it like literally. Just take a deep breath and do what nurtures yourself the most in this. Okay, so that's my reading for y'all, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.